Welcome to the Fiscally Awesome podcast. I'm your host, Matt Gardner, co-founder and CEO of Hiline. Today on the podcast, I'm excited to welcome Mark Shepard, founder of Gathr, joining us from across the pond in London, England. Mark's got a really cool story, a lot of fun facts about Mark we're going to unpack, and we look forward to jumping into it. Okay, Mark, welcome to the Fiscally Awesome pod, man. Thanks for joining us all the way from the UK.
Thank you very much for having me. Super excited to be on board.
Yeah, this is going to be a cool discussion. I think maybe before we get into it, Mark, why don't you give us a little bit about your background? You've done some cool stuff as an investor in your career, and you're also the founder and running Gathr now. So take us back through how you got started in your career, the cool things you've done, and what led you to think about building Gathr, and talk a bit about what Gathr is.
Absolutely. Yeah, so Gathr overall now is a community of about 10,000 kind of founders, investors, operators, and advisors across the UK. We fundamentally about the community, about building tomorrow, and we are there to support and connect founders, investors, operators, and advisors together and help them on their journey. And we're building a number of products across that to basically support founders on the journey from day dot to IPO effectively, or exit from there. My background, so yeah, a bit of a weird one, a bit of around the houses at some points. So always been quite entrepreneurial. So I started my first business when I was 16, selling boat photos to boat owners. I realized that boat owners had money because they had boats, but what they couldn't do is take a picture of their boat on the water. So back in the day of being 16, so it's quite a long time ago now, I borrowed my dad's film camera, 35mm film, those of us old enough to remember it. I would take the pictures as they left the marina. I'd run to Tesco's or probably Walmart over your side, the pond, get them developed, run back, and then sell them on the way back in. So that was my first kind of taste of entrepreneurship. Then interestingly, actually, my first marketplace I built as well. So it was called MS Boat Photos, so particularly not original. And then basically build a site to get photos taken by other photographers in the area, other students, put into one place, and then sell the photos to the boat owners. And so yeah, that was my first kind of taste of entrepreneurship, which was great fun and definitely saved working in McDonald's from that point. I then actually had to go get a proper kind of, my mum was like, I think you should probably go and actually do a degree of some form versus trying to just do this. So I actually did my A-levels, then went off to uni and did a real degree. I did engineering science. And then, but while I was at uni, I was also like, why do we all hang around with other completely clueless freshers, which is obviously great in one way, but also like we're all going this journey together and no one really knows what's happening, but the people above us have all been there and done that. So that was really my first taste of community. And I was like, actually, I'm a huge wine lover. I'm a huge food lover. And I was like, why don't I just bring people together from my college into one place, host a meal for 20 people, and just let first year, second year, third year, fourth years, PhDs all meet each other and all connect with each other, all kind of share problems and build a community. So that was actually my first community I built as well, and brought people together. That was working really well. And it was really nice to actually see people brand new into university, meeting people 4 or 5 years in, you could actually support them through that journey from there. And then I graduated, so that one didn't continue. And then I moved to London, started my second community, and you'll see a little pattern here, which was called Dinner Time London. And Dinner Time London was also based on food and wine, trying to bring young professionals together. And I was like, actually, why don't we hang out with other young professionals, also new to a city, also not quite sure what's going on? Did that. That one also didn't work very well because no young professionals could get out of work at 6 o'clock on a Thursday because they're all like lawyers, consultants, bankers, and the rest of it. Mm-hmm. So that was game over pretty quickly. Then decided to, at that point, I was working for a strategy consultancy. So started meeting businesses, started meeting entrepreneurs, and was like, actually, this is really cool. And this is more like professionalizing up what I was trying to do before. Then went to private equity, spent a year or so in private equity, loved the like investing side, loved meeting the entrepreneurs, didn't really like the private equity culture, wasn't quite one for me. And so moved to venture, so a little bit closer to the entrepreneur, started meeting more founders, more investors, and just got bitten with this bug of being like, I kind of want to start something again. I really want to build something. And yeah, 3 years ago, I posted on LinkedIn just after COVID, does anybody fancy a beer? Expecting 5 people to say yes. And since then, over 10,000 people have now signed up to the mailing list completely organically. And turns out people do want a beer. And that has now turned into what was London Tech Drinks into Gathr. But I'll pause there before I keep talking for the next half an hour.
Okay. So you've been chasing community marketplace basically since birth, which is cool.
Yeah. That's how I really do like communities.
I do have to say, so we do have a private equity capital partner, and I got to say, you just got to pick the right one. We have a great partner in the Red Iron Group. They're based out of Palo Alto in California. They've been awesome. It's been 18 months, but I totally get it, man. It's the investing side of business is so fascinating, even to me as a founder. If I had a divergent career path, like if I could do it over again, I would have loved to start my career on the investing side, just getting a taste of that deep finance background. I ended up going into accounting. I was a public accountant for 9 years, which was a whole different story. We're not going to get into that. That was dark days in my career, but that's cool, man. Okay, so Gathr is a community for founders and investors, right? So is it UK based? Is it EU? Like how wide reaching is it?
So there are definitely people like in the community which are from abroad effectively, but really is very, very much focused on the UK, very much focused on London right now. The origin, I literally posted on LinkedIn, he wanted this beer. About 100 people signed up in 24 hours. And I was like, oh my word, I actually now need to go and make this happen because I didn't expect anyone to do anything. And then from there, it just grew. So originally, to be honest, it was absolute carnage. It was just everyone was piling into one room. At our peak, we had 50 signups in 50 seconds for the event, kind of like Glastonbury back then. And then as we scaled, we basically realized what we needed to do was build true community and not a transactional marketplace. And by that, what I mean is we now have the community split into 5 core groups. So we have a founders and operators group, which kind of pre-seed to Series A founders, most of them venture back, most of them on that kind of high growth journey, as well as some kind of later stage bootstrap founders. Then got the VC investors themselves, private equity, and then the advisors group. But what we do is we do keep all the groups separate based on the fact that community for us is about peer-to-peer networking, peer-to-peer sharing, peer-to-peer support. There's obviously a time when they should meet in regards to obviously making deals happen, but actually making sure for longevity, you've got those kind of sides together from there. So yeah, very much London focused right now, but with very big plans down the line.
Awesome. Can you talk about the vision? What's the grand vision? 5 years from now, what are you going for?
100%. So we've fundamentally been building products to sit around the community. And the first product that we've built is called Gathr Defined, or it's about to be rebranded again to maybe join Gathr. But really what we've built here is a marketplace of, we call it like the Michelin guide of the services world. It's bringing together the world's best service providers who can help founders solve their problems quicker, faster, and let them scale really well. So the reason this business came about was because me being a VC before and also being a founder, I was just seeing people saying, hey, can you recommend this? Hey, can you recommend that? I was like, there must be a better way of doing it. And people were like, maybe one person responding via WhatsApp. So we took 9 months. We spoke to loads of our community, loads of our VC partners and said, who do you recommend? Who do you use? Who's great at what they do? And ultimately what we built there is Gathr. And that's the Gathr platform, which basically allows founders and investors to very easily find the service providers that can solve their problems. So US accounting with you guys, US tax, US law, but even things like PR and marketing for a fundraise. We've helped a £500 million VC fund help with their new rebrand, their funding, their new website. We've helped people hire like CFOs and whatever. So what we do is sit as a lovely layer between the founder and investor community and the service providers and allow them to pick vetted, recommended, and curated providers to make the whole purpose joy much easier. And then the vision, the global vision really is within 5 years, a very large proportion of founders and investors who need any services on their journey, they come and use us to basically help that process through like best-in-class providers, best-in-class prices, and never making mistakes and being able to actually not have to worry about the vendors because they're fantastic and do that globally.
It was the inspiration. Did that come from you watching a lot of companies do it wrong or picking the wrong partners or investing in the wrong places?
Yeah, I think it was twofold. One was like my own journey of actually just trying to build a business and being like, God, who's actually good and who's got the right experience and what's going on from here? And it's just been quite a painful journey of trying to discover. And if you look at the B2B world as a whole, the services world, my understanding is the largest market in the world when you put accounting and legal and tax and everything all into one bucket. But it's also the most opaque. Like everything else. And I spoke to a lawyer from a very well-known law firm and they said, yeah, isn't it amazing? Like before spending 20 quid on lunch, you would look at reviews, but before spending 50 grand on legal service, you just pray and hope. And it's actually, this is madness when you look at how opaque the B2B services world is. So really what we're trying to do is add that layer of transparency around quality, around reviews, around pricing, around data, to make the whole process of purchasing service providers infinitely easier than it has been currently.
I agree with you. I think if you're a first-time founder of a company, doesn't matter if you're raising money, if you're bootstrapping it, like when you get on Google and you start trying to figure out who your partners should be, it's so noisy. So many of them out there. The natural tendency historically pre-COVID, I think always looked in your backyard to see who you could drive your car to.
Yeah.
Like that was going to be my person. Now it's even noisier because you can pick from anybody, anywhere. And I think it's really, most of the I speak to the accounting and finance world, most of them don't offer a clear value proposition in terms of what makes them better, makes them different. Yeah. So it's very interesting.
And people really want, and what we see really interestingly is people want people who get tech. And I think this is a big part of it. So many accountants, so many lawyers just don't understand tech companies and ARR and the growth and the venture-backed model. as well as the non-venture back model, but it's very much, I'm very good at, we do loads of hairdressers or we do loads of building work. So it's quite different to actually understand a tech company. And I think that's a large part of what we're trying to do. Ultimately, people want, have they worked with tech companies? Are they good value? And I think that's really interesting. It's not about being cheap. It's about being good value for money.
Yep.
And are they responsive and dynamic like I am as a firm? Like I don't want someone to respond in 7 days because we move so fast. We can't have that.
Yep. Totally. Founders respond in 7 minutes. Founders, a different mode of pace. Okay, man. So just for background for everybody listening, actually, I'll let you tell the story, Mark. How did you get to know Sammy? Shout out Sammy Glasky. Sammy works for Hiline. Sammy's in London. She's leading our US expansion efforts over there, and she's partnered with folks like Mark to help get that off the ground.
Yeah, so as part of our research into kind of recommended providers, your guys' name popped up from one of the recommendations within the community and the advisor group that we've got, and then was introduced to Sammy, told you guys all about what we're building, and then went from there, really. So yeah, it came from just a recommendation from within the community over here. And I think it was actually one of our US partners on the legal side who has their list of their black book of people. And really what we're trying to do is open up that black book. And you guys were one of the recommended providers from within that. And then from there over, Sammy's come to a few of the events and we've grown the relationship.
Yep. And yeah, so it's Mark and I were chatting before we actually started recording. UK companies looking to expand to the US has created like this really interesting niche for us where we're able to help get them set up here, take care of all the tax and legal compliance needs they have, and also like the employment part of it. Like how do you employ somebody in the US across multiple states and just get the bare bones back office infrastructure set up to make it run. And that's been just like a really great partnership we've had with our partners in the UK, including Mark and Gathr. And it's just been there's been a huge demand pull, more so than I would have expected. So that's probably like a good segue into like the UK startup and investing scene in general, like your vantage point. How would you describe what's happening right now in the business world, small business world, but probably also just startup environment in London and in the UK right now?
I would say it's quite a tough time for, I think, most people. I think globally as well, it's not the big bull run that we've fundamentally been on. And cash is not just free flowing, and there's not the hype days of 2021 where everything was raising all this money. There's definitely a lot more conservative nature in some ways. So we're bootstrapped. We haven't raised. We're not planning on raising, but it's still like the enterprise side is starting to be customers. Everything's slowing down. And that's what we're seeing on that side. I think building a business is fundamentally just really hard. I've only done it over this period, so I haven't done it before. So I don't necessarily know the ins and outs of like how this is necessarily changing over time. But everything I'm hearing, everything I'm seeing is that funding is just really hard to get. And obviously when the funding is really hard to get at the pre-seed stage, there's less companies being raised and there's less growth from there. I do think it's really interesting when you look at this trend of like seed strapping that people are now talking about, where you raise a little bit and then try and go to bootstrap, or it's like working towards profitability more. I think there are less people obsessed with trying to raise massive rounds and massive growth on that side, and realize that growth all cost doesn't really matter as much anymore. And actually founders owning their business is quite important. And so I think there's a really interesting thing of people looking at alternatives, especially when you then roll into, and I was trying not to say AI, but I've gone there, but there you go.
Here we go.
Here we go. I made it in 15 minutes and we're done. But ultimately, like there are so many amazing tools out there which enable founders to basically spin up MVPs much quicker than ever before, actually get customer research quicker than ever before, more connected than ever before. And so I think in one way, it's probably the easiest time to start a business that there's ever been. Now, that's the initial way of getting something off the ground. And I do think we actually sold, not sure to say this, but we sold, I think, our first 20, 30, 40 contract on the back of a Figma that cost me £700. We then realized we actually didn't build it because we'd actually then sold it. But the idea being is I think there's so many opportunities for founders these days to actually just build something, go and test it and learn super fast. Whereas traditionally it's been much harder to do that. Obviously services business is a little bit tricky because you can't just pretend to be an accountant. Yep. But like with like the software world and like even the consumer product world, there's a lot easier. It's easier now than it's ever been before to test, which I also think means the bar's got higher for a lot of investors at the earlier stages. The big complaint I do hear a lot is everyone at pre-seed saying, I'm pre-revenue, therefore I can't raise a pre-seed. Whereas that bar seems to have moved up from very happy with pre-revenue, unless it's deep tech, to then move to actually, we do want to see something. But I think that's based on the fact it's now easier than ever before to test and find traction to actually prove the concept's working. So yeah, a bit of a ramble on a few different topics in there, but that's current.
Yeah, the speed to MVP is faster and like the cost to do it is lower than it's ever been. Let's talk about the why, right? Because you're familiar with this, but probably not everybody listening, especially people who were in the US that listen to the podcast. If you're a UK founder, like what's the draw to the, what is like the triggering events that get you starting to think about wanting to spin up a US subsidiary? Is it fundraising? Is it bigger markets? Is it both? Is it other stuff? What are the drivers?
Yeah, my one caveat is I've not done it yet, but so I haven't done that. But I think what we hear and see is a few things. One is US fundraising. There's at least a thought process, and I don't actually know how true this is. Definitely a thought process that fundraising in the US is much, much easier than it is in the UK. Now, whether that's actually true or not, I don't necessarily know. That's almost like hope from UK founders saying, if I go to the US.
That's the thought, the feeling. Everybody thinks that's the case.
Now, there's also 500, I have no idea how many more times. I'm going to throw a random number out there, 500 times more, 1,000 times more companies in the US fundraising as well for the same capital pool. Yep. So it is going to be competitive on that side. I think you either go early when you're going to race to the US, you go, okay, I'm going to go straight to the US. It's going to be a great market for me. I'm going to commit. Or you go later when you've proven it in the UK market. I think what you do see is companies start going, oh, I'll go like at a seed stage, or I haven't really got PMF in the UK yet. I haven't really built my scalable processes, and now I'm going to try and launch a new market. I think that's something that can be very risky. So I think people either go very early or go when like Series B, late Series A, Series B, when they've proven in their home market. And then the US does become an obvious one, right? It's 320 million. Is that right? The number of people in the US, something like that?
Yeah. Yes.
Ish, 300, that many million?
You're in the ballpark.
In the ballpark, 300 plus or minus million, but it's like 60 in the UK. So like, yeah, that's already 5 times bigger market, and obviously English speaking. So I think there's a lot of opportunities in the US. I think one founders do forget is that it's not one country. It's loads of different states that make up one country.
It's basically 50 mini countries in a country.
Yeah. And I think that's a challenge. People think, I'll just go there and I'll just sell in the US. And then obviously when you start speaking to advisors and experts, we work a lot with helping companies like US tax advisors, US accountants, US lawyers, payroll and whatever, go on that journey, introduce them to people like yourselves who can actually help them on that. They suddenly realize, oh, this isn't necessarily as smooth or as easy as I thought it was going to be. But you definitely see in all of the big tech giants you see are obviously US based. Everything's talked about the Silicon Valley. Everyone talks about the kind of the US on that side. And the energy in the US is amazing, right? You go over there and there is this hunger and this ambition. I would also say that I think UK founders are still super ambitious and super hungry. I just think the way that they might speak about it and the level of cultural norms might be slightly different in the way that they're like, I'm going to take over the world. It might be slightly more held back on that form as well. I'm not sure whether it's offended all of America.
No offense.
So yeah, I think fundamentally, British founders, UK founders, European founders want to go to the US. I think it's different from the UK to like Europe, because Europe says, okay, do I go to the UK first and do another small market, or do I just go straight to the US? Whereas as a UK founder, English speaking, massive market, but it's very expensive to do. And I think that's why a lot of US expansions fail miserably, is people don't have the right money, they've not got the right resources, and they haven't planned it correctly with the right team in the right place.
Yep. Yeah, to your point, the complexity with the 50 states in the US, if you come in, every state's got different tax rules, they got different tax rates, they have different employment regulations, they have different sales tax rules. You got to pay sales tax on software in the US, every state. And sometimes even municipalities within states have different rates. So we made it about as complicated as you could possibly make a tax and regulatory system over time. Just like this compounding effect of regulations just built this mountain of words. But anyways, you talked a little bit about this, but talk about your opinion between a US founder and a UK founder. What are the key differences between the two as you see it when you meet folks who are building in the two countries?
Yeah, so I haven't really met that many US founders, so I don't have like...
You got one, you got me.
I've got a few, but not a huge number. It's more what I hear, right? I do hear from the wheel, the level of ambition, the level of drive, the level of this will become a $100 billion company. But also there's a level of realism I think British founders use, and it's in regards to being like, my financial model will grow well, but it's not going to just suddenly become a 50 billion company in year 3. But I also think that's like culturally almost what you're told, and therefore you like play on that a little bit more as well. I don't really have a very good answer for this one because I haven't met enough US founders, but ultimately there are loads of great companies being made in the UK. There are loads of amazing founders who have built loads of amazing companies. And I think the UK and the founder market internally is as ambitious as the US. It's just whether like how it then fits in culturally probably to alongside that.
Yeah. Yeah. You probably, I have to imagine you hear a lot, man, through your community. You got 10,000 members. Like you're hearing tidbits of information and gathering data all the time. So you're probably just as informed, if not more informed, than somebody who's met a few founders in person. Okay. So let's talk more about community, man. Community is really interesting to me. We think about community for Hiline over time. It's going to take time for us to get there. And we think about like, where's the right place? Is it with our customers? Is it in the accounting world? All that's TBD. Talk about Why has this always been so core to you and what you care about, what you want to do? And how do you think about the importance of community to gather success in the future?
Yeah, I think humans fundamentally are community animals, right? Fundamentally, for all of time, humans have been community creatures. And I think actually, especially in the post-COVID, I do just want to be with people. I do want to meet people. There's nothing better than actually just like sharing problems, challenges, highs, lows, and everything else in between with other people. And fundamentally within that, I think it's so critical community to support and success as well. When you look at everything, is like, to be successful, you can't do it alone. You need other people, whether that's like both in work and your colleagues, out of work and your family and your friends and your relationship. Life is hard and life is a roller coaster. And so I think community is very powerful. I also then think when you look at it, for me, it's always been about peer groups and peer networking and realizing that there's always people who are like above you or below you in regards to like the stage of their life and what they're doing, but actually people who are around you who can also support you. And like, I get you. I genuinely understand where you're coming from. That for me has always been super powerful. And I've always just been a massive extrovert. I love meeting new people. I love new people's stories. I love understanding how their mission in their life and what they're trying to achieve. And I think bringing people together, I think there's a Harvard study, was it 170 years again or something like that, where they looked at it and it was actually, the only one thing that really meant to drive true happiness was around community and connection. And it doesn't matter how much money you have or whatever, if you haven't got people around you that you can love you, support you and care for you and you them, then actually that's always going to take away from that. So I think fundamentally, community is incredibly powerful. It helps everyone succeed. And really what it can also like lift everybody up together. It doesn't have to be like at the detriment of somebody else. And then with Gathr, we've gone the kind of other way around where we've built the community, we've built the connections, we've built all these amazing funds and VCs we work with and private equity that we work with. And we go about on the VC side, just short 2,000 VCs from about 800 different funds that are kind of part of the community. And on the private equity side, it's about 2,000 private equity professionals from about 400 different funds. And it's bringing these people together and actually realizing when you speak to them, their own challenges they're like the same but different. And then what we're trying to build ultimately, we're trying to build products that solve the community's exact needs. And everything I want to do with here is to listen to the community, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And one of the products we're actually launching around the marketplace is we built like a white labeled software. And what we're actually doing with this white label software is for communities themselves. Imagine as well as our overall public portal you can see, we're actually working with 9 VC funds now who've got contracted up, and they're actually going to manage their portfolio through our portal where each one of the portfolio can say, I use this vendor, this is how they were, this is what they did, this is their pricing, and really share knowledge across that to allow everyone to succeed. Everything we're doing is really around connecting people in many different forms, but also sharing of knowledge and community to build support and ultimately to make everyone more successful and make these decisions much easier.
That's incredible. I agree with you. Community matters. There's an old saying, money doesn't buy happiness. You can have money without community and friends and family. You're probably going to be limited in terms of the happy bar that you can achieve. Can you talk about like the Gathr business model? Like how does community, like how do you monetize it as part of Gathr, like the business model for Gathr? I don't know how many folks are like familiar with how it works.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have sponsors effectively. So for our events, we have partners. So we work with an amazing array of massive partners from small to huge global firms like AWS. And we might host an event for VC breakfast. We do a VC breakfast. We had 20 leading VCs come along. We do a partner only VC breakfast. And we'd have a partner that comes along to that, talks about who they are, what they do, how they can help, and then just really just introducing the network to build together. And the platform really is a productized version of our events because the events are actually bringing people together and meeting the partners in real life. And then when they need services, we then have the next level up of access 24/7 from there to be able to meet it. So the business model on the event side is a sponsorship. And then on the platform side, it's a platform fee and then an introductory commission.
Yeah, very cool. And so Hiline's on the Gathr platform.
Absolutely, yeah.
Provider. So how do you talk about what gets you excited about bringing in different partners? Like what's your vetting process? Like what's the bar you got to clear if you want to be part of the community?
Yeah, so we take recommendations and references. So basically we went out to the community and said, who do you recommend? Who would you rate? Who do you use? And then once we've taken those, we look at firms, we then make sure they've worked with the right kind of firms. So when it's somebody recommending someone, but it's not working with kind of high growth tech companies, then that's not going to work. And then we take third party review data as well. So anything else we can find from there. And then really what we're doing is replicating the model of saying, hey, Matt, who do you use for this? Who do you use for that? And taking those kind of introductions from individuals and then scaling them all up into one place. So we work really well with loads of very top leading VC funds. People have signed up for the portals, people like Crane Ventures, Albion Ventures, Hiline Europe, Fidelity Ventures, and they provided us with their recommendations of who they use for their portfolio. And that's obviously a trusted source. There's worked with loads of people and taking that kind of black book of knowledge and making it public. And that's really what we're doing here is democratizing access to this information but knowing that other people have worked with them and got it. So why can't you also work with them from that side? And then with some, we also take references on them as well as the actual recommendation. We also take references from the actual existing clients. Like, have you been happy? What's going on from there as well?
Yep. Cool. Very high bar.
We try.
Only the elite make it in.
We try, yeah. And then, and also it's then which kind of clients have they work with. If you want to gather platform, you can see which VC funds they work with, which kind of companies they work with. We've also got the reviews on the platform as well. So you can actually see that transparent data.
I saw that. I love that. Be honest. You got to be consistent in the service you provide.
That's really our goal is this. And then we've also introduced a concierge service recently, and we're actually launching a very exciting health check, which is being built as we speak, which will be launching next weeks.
Talk about that. What's that? Can we talk about that, or is it still not fully disclosed?
It's not, no, but this is breaking news. We'll do it right here, right now.
Breaking news?
For the first time. Yeah.
We have a knack for finding breaking news. Talk about the health check.
Yeah, it's really been interesting on our journey of right now. We're on the journey of finding product market fit. Like, we know it works, deals are being done, leads are coming through. Like, fundamentally, the process is working. We just need to find this thing that gets to 100x scale of volume. And what we've really learned that's been really interesting is most people don't know what they don't know. And this phrase has probably been said to me now 100 times from all of our product interviews. And they're like, I've just raised £1 million, I've just raised £3 million, but I don't actually know what I need necessarily to do next, or I don't know what I'm missing because I haven't done this before. And so we were like, actually, there must be a much better way of doing this than just praying and hoping. So we're working with our vendors, working with our providers to actually create a kind of bespoke business health check, which will give you a score and also benchmark you compared to your peer group of where you're at in that health check. And that will cover everything from legal to governance to growth metrics as well. So it's going to be split into two. It's going to be a hygiene section and then like a growth section. And then within growth, are you doing the paid channels, the SEO channels? Have you thought about the social channels? Have you thought about your outbound sales team? Have you thought about this? And giving everyone like the suite of tools and the candy shop or the menu to go through and say, not interested in that, tried that, haven't tried that, and give everyone the tools to enable them to scale. So yeah, we'll create a health check on like the hygiene side, and then also like a growth check on the other side, and then give them a score of either what they've done, what they've not done, and what they can do.
I love that. It's like you're looking at my agenda, because that was going to be what I asked you next was, if a founder comes to Gathr, or if you're going to advise a founder that comes to Gathr, where are you telling them to start? Or maybe take me through your mental health check. What do they need to be thinking about first, and what sequence? What can you let go till later? And our whole thing on the podcast is trying to help founders and operators become more fiscally awesome, which means we're trying to teach them how to think about allocating capital. Every decision you make has a capital allocation ramification. So sometimes you need to invest, and sometimes you got to let the fire burn. You can't do it all at one time. So what's the health check for you? What do you want to make sure they have in place first?
Yeah, so I think full transparency, what we're doing with here, we're sitting one layer above this. So really what we've done is gone to our vendors, who are all experts, leading experts across what they do, and gone, what is the thing that everybody needs to do? And I think the challenge at the moment is lots of people will have a health check or a thing, but a lawyer will have one for this, an accountant will have one for this. And then you've got to try and find it, and it's not complete. So we're like, let's just bring together all of our leading vendors, get all the knowledge into one place, and allow someone to do a full once over. I think what we're seeing really interesting, for example, I spoke to a founder last week, just raised £1 million pre-seed, didn't have business insurance in place, hadn't done any R&D tax credit claims, didn't have a proper employment insurance, and all this stuff. And you're like, oh shit, you should probably go and fix some of this. And they're blind spots. And ultimately what we're doing there is we're saying, like, it's not your fault because you haven't done this and you're so busy building a business. Let us, and therefore in this case of the insurance, we've got some leading insurance brokers on there who can actually go on and help them. We're not the insurance brokers, we're not the experts, but we introduce it to them. They can then go through and do a proper deep dive and make sure they're covered. And when they need legal help, we've got the lawyers they can go and help. But they're all startup friendly. They all get startups, they all get tech, and they're all trusted. And so basically we can help people fix the business on that side. And the other really nice one is the other day, paid media. Someone's like, I want to start experimenting with paid media. What the hell do I do? Where do I go? We've got a few firms in there that specialize in helping early stage companies with like paid stuff across LinkedIn and Google and TikTok, etc. And so you can be like, if you're interested in that, go and speak to this person. So really, we're like a concierge. You come to us with your problems, we help you diagnose your problems, and then we put you to the right specialist who can solve that problem. But we can be like the first port of call to help you meet the right trusted vendor.
So I'll frame it a different way. What's the SWAT team? Like, if you're pre-seed to Series A, what's your SWAT team of partners that you need to make sure they take care of to make sure you don't miss your business insurance, to make sure you don't become non-compliant with taxes or payroll? Like, what's the team you recommend? Lawyers, accountants, insurance, what is it?
Yeah, you're always going to need to have a good lawyer that you work with. You always need to have a great accountant. You're always going to need to have your insurance broker, whatever's make sure your business is covered. So really with a SWAT team, there's two parts, right? There's like the foundations of your business to make sure you're going to be in a safe place. The next bit for growth. I think a lot of it's actually not necessarily like rocket science. Yes, you need an accountant. Yes, you need a lawyer. Yes, you need your insurance people on that side. but also having really great recruiters who can help you, if it's right for you, to find that fractional CFO or that founding engineer who you need, that having really good branding agencies or a logo designer to actually be able to do your website, do that piece. I think the bar is just got higher and higher in regards to everything that's available. So what we really want to do here is to help people find those people, the experts who can solve their problems the quickest. Because really, when you're building a business, you're just trying to connect the different dots of the different experts and then have your own product on top. So being able to find very easily those people. And I think really what we're trying to do is help people save time and save money by just speaking to the right people.
Yes, that's a good example. So that's a capital allocation decision, right? If you're a founder, whatever you raised, they didn't seed you to spend 3 weeks trying to find an office space. That's not like a good use of your time to get paid to do that. That's interesting. So one thing that I've seen in the US, right? Oftentimes, I don't necessarily think anybody, not a lot of folks, like if you're a first-time founder, like how much money they decide to raise, it doesn't seem, it's almost kind of seems like as much as I can get. It doesn't seem thought out, or they thought about the dilution effect of that or how I'm going to spend it until they've already got it. It's changing now because people are being forced to be more fiscally responsible because money is not as free flowing. But is it similar in the UK, or are they more deliberate about it?
I think especially most of people, the first time around you've done it, no one's actually done this before. So I think a lot of it is trial and error as you go through. I think people have an idea of what they want. There's definitely the old thumb rule of saying raise at least 18 to 24 months runway because it takes 12 months to raise. Ideally, to raise 24 months worth of runway. Otherwise, you're going to be starting to raise in 6 months. And I think people are getting there's two camps, and there always has been two camps. I think when you look at all forms of investment, and back in the day of crypto hype and Web3, it was like, well, if you're on the blockchain, take all my money. And now it's actually, that's died. And now if you're in Gen AI, take all my money. And then it's always just like that same thing moving through of what's the latest hot thing can we do? But fundamentally, great businesses will always get funded. And I think that's the interesting thing here. Now, what is a great business is a different question, because also like making money is also becoming much more attractive these days. People are, hang on, actually, I can make this P word, this naughty P word.
What a novel concept. Making money is attractive.
Yeah. And it's actually, you can still have a really good exit at 50 million and it could be life-changing for the founders. But if you've raised a small seed round and the valuation was 30 million, maybe not. But if you've raised a small angel round and they rent in at 2-3 million, there's still like 20x return there. So I think it very much, founders need to really think about what they want themselves from this journey. Do you have your own magic number where you're like, you know what, if I can get to 10 million exit, I'll be ecstatic? Because with the venture route, and people do call it sometimes like heroin, is once you're on it, you can't stop until the very, very end, because you either have to make a massive exit and then hope it's done well and you get the money, or you don't. And there are so many businesses. With a list I saw yesterday, the last raised at 700 million and sold for 140, 170, something like that. And that's not the first or the last example of companies that have raised huge amounts of money and then sold for pennies on the pound.
That's like at the core of my question, right? So it's like you come in, you're inexperienced, you think you know what you need for 18 to 24 months. You may undershoot it or overshoot it. You're not really thinking about the valuation you raised it at and how much pressure you're going to be under to grow into it. And can you grow into it or can you not? So if you could have a great business and you could raise money on a valuation that you'll never catch and you're done.
Yeah.
Like you're just cooked. I just think hopefully it's getting better and people are getting smarter about this. And I understand the industry. It's been growth at all costs. It's been like, we want unicorns. We don't want mediocre, moderate exits. But the founders, I think, lose a lot sometimes when they're not well coached or educated on like how to get started. Because that first round sets the pace, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And I think also there's still this thing about how many employees you have, how much have you raised? And obviously I'm completely the other way because we're fully bootstrapped. And so I do have that like comparison is the thief of joy. I'm like, they've got more employees than me and they've done this. And my team's always like, but they've also
did it for 7 years, man. Bootstrapping is great. And it's also the worst thing ever.
Yeah. That's insane. But and you're like, oh God, like what else should I be doing? Or where else can I make like money? Or I should invest in this. And for me right now, especially what I'm telling the team, is to find product market fit. And I feel like we're getting closer and inching closer every day. And it's feeling like the pot is starting to boil more until we really work out what it is that's really going to make that whole thing just explode. But like money's not necessarily going to solve that for us. Money, like we could spend loads of money on ads or hire loads of people, but then you end up often quite dysfunctional teams. What really is going to solve it for us is like speaking to our clients more, testing and learning more, building that up, and then working out what's resonating, what's not resonating, doing that 100, 200, 300 times. And then when we know we found it, then we think, okay, great. Say this health check really takes off as we're expecting it to. And they running ads on that, then starts leading all the founders coming in and start buying all the services. If we know that flow's working, we've got the conversion rate and the forecasted unit economics, amazing. Let's just go and raise 5 million quid and spend it all on that because we know we'll make 50 million out the back of it. But if we don't have that, why would we spend 5 million on ads praying and testing until we know what's going to work? But I think it's very easy when you're young as well, and you're like, I just want to go and have a big shot of this and raise some money and do it and burn through it. Or if you're going to think, actually, I want to own the company, I want a different pace. I think what people forget often is that the exits are normally that different, or actually the bootstrap founders have a lot more control. And you can decide when you leave, but you can decide when you exit. But it is tougher, as you said earlier, right? It's like you can't just, one of our competitors in the US, and not really a competitor, but like borderline so similar B2B services market, they've done really well, but they raised 700 million. And it's a bit like, okay, cool. I'm sure we could do a lot more if we had 700 million in the bank, but we don't. But also you can still have a great exit overall.
Yeah, we're up against that too. We're bootstrapped forever, and we have a private equity partner now. But what we were building, there were companies like Pilot. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Pilot and what Pilot is. Pilot raised like $130 million to basically build a venture-backed version of what Hiline is. And it's tough to compete because they can just unleash on go-to-market, right? So it's tough to compete with their growth. They have different challenges they have to contend with, like growing into valuations. But it definitely forces you to be really thoughtful about where you make your investments when you're bootstrapped.
Yeah.
And you got to pull the ripcord a lot faster if it's not working and pivot. You don't have the luxury of making a bad decision and bleeding the bank account down to hope that it turns around. I respect bootstrap founders, man. I think you should bootstrap before you raise 100% of the time, if you can. I think you just learn a lot about how to allocate money.
Yeah, I completely agree. The journey, we started off purely, I quit my job to become purely in the event side. We started off with that. And then I got bored with about 4 months of time being like, I'm not just going to run an events business. I have too much time on my hands. Let's build a tech product.
You sound like you have a lot of spare time.
Yeah. So I was like, great, let's build a product. And then building a product, a whole new challenge in itself, but a fascinating and an incredible journey. And I am absolutely loving it. Like the highs are high and the lows are low. And I think no one else apart from founders really probably get how much of a roller coaster is, and how one day, even in the same day, you can be like, yeah, another deal done. And oh my God, this massive client has churned, or this massive thing's going wrong. But it is what we put ourselves through. But I think for me, building something from your vision, something you've dreamt of, and actually seeing it come to life is really satisfying. It's incredibly hard, but I still would, if anyone's wanting to do it, I'd still recommend getting out.
Nothing better, man. There's absolutely nothing better.
Just prepare yourself. It's not necessary. It's not all yachts and the champagne.
It's prepare for years of rolling from your office into your bed and rolling out of your bed back into your office.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we talked about what's next for Gathr and kind of your health check, which is cool. We want to leave everything we talked about, like one piece of advice for a founder building in the UK right now. What's your go-to if you're going to leave them with a seed of knowledge?
I think in the very early stages, it's just get started. And I know people say it all the time, but there is nothing more true. And I think what I've learned more than I ever expected to learn is that every single day I take a step forward, sometimes a step back, but a step forward and hit another brick wall. Like building, like you will not know. There's not like a clear tunnel end to end where you're just walking down and being like, oh, this is great every day. Like every day you hit a brick wall, but every day you smash through that brick wall, hopefully. And then you find the next one. But at the end of the day, you will connect A to Z, and you will have hopefully a business that has worked. And that is then consistency and revenue and profit, and it's a flow, and you can then ramp up and do that and rinse and repeat. But until you take that first step, you won't know what's behind the next brick wall, and you won't know what's behind the next brick wall. And so I think just take the step, because without the step, you will never be able to mastermind the whole thing. I thought from the beginning I had a master plan. This is how it's going to play out. Very quickly realized that was wrong. But also you can have a general idea of what you're trying to build. And I think that's really important, but don't get annoyed or don't get held back by exactly how to get there, because that journey to get there will guarantee not be the way you think it will end up. But that's about finding PMF, because then you speak to customers and they're like, I like that, but I don't like this. And so then you pivot slightly. And I think pivot's a strong word, but adjust. And then you listen to the next customer and the next customer, and they're like, this. And then you
recalibration. It requires recalibration every day.
Every day, recalibrate. Every day, listen. And every day, if you've got through the brick wall that's facing you that day, then well done. And there will be another brick wall tomorrow, and there will be another brick wall the day after. But that's what you need to expect. So I think just get started, because you will never have the perfect plan. And have your ears open, have your eyes open, listen, and just go from there, and just good luck. Fundamentally.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have some fun with some rapid fire questions, but on Gathr, or for you personally, where can people look you up? Where can they find you if they're interested in learning more?
Yeah. So joingathr.com. So GATHR, because we couldn't afford the E. So yeah, join gather without the E.com. So on there, we have our events, we have the marketplace. We are actually going to be launching an investment portal as well. So you can actually find investors more easily. So yeah, if anything, founder, anyone's looking for investors, great service providers or events or educational topics, go to joingathr.com without the E and sign up there.
Yeah, right on. Check out Gathr. All right, you want to wrap it up with some rapid fire questions? Have some fun.
Hit me.
All right. We're going to talk about the dark side of the founder. What's your biggest founder pet peeve?
I think no one telling the truth of the bad stuff. I think every founder just needs to be more open. That's my biggest pet peeve. Let's actually just be open about everything.
I couldn't agree with that more. I think anybody who's building a business, whether you're a founder or you're running one, every day is a different challenge. It's hard and you're full of shit if you tell everybody that it's sunshine and rainbows all the time.
Yeah.
Be honest about it. Other people can learn. I also think it makes you feel better when you realize other people are dealing with their own version of the same issues.
Yeah, 100%. And then it's also backed on that. And I'm 1,000,000% guilty of this, but it's comparing yourself to others. And they've just raised all this money, but you don't know their churn rate, you don't know their growth. They might be smashing it, but there's a whole lot of things you don't know about. And I think that's another one that's really, there was a business the other day. This isn't a quick fire answer, but there's a business the other day outside doing really well. And actually I met the team and realized that they said they're all being let go and the whole company's not just winding down. But from the outside, it's like, oh my God, this thing's amazing. So just focus on your own lane and be open and supportive to everyone around you. Founders need as much community and support as possible because it is really hard.
Yep. Humility and be open.
Humility and openness.
Cool. All right. Favorite British slang word or phrase that you use all the time?
Oh my word. Oh my God, if you actually asked me, I'd say these probably said them on the call about 1,000 times today. British. I don't know if I said any talking to you.
I can't. I'm not bailing you out.
Right now, I'll actually Google. Dodgy. Probably said that means suspicious, supposedly, but I thought that was just English.
I like that one. I like dodgy.
Dodgy.
We'll go with that. Yeah.
What's really interesting is that having now gone straight to Google is I didn't realize that most things I say are actually slang. So there you go. Learn something new every day.
Perfect. Dodgy. We'll go with dodgy. I like dodgy. Last one, man. What's one thing about you that somebody would never guess?
For those who don't know me, which is therefore they wouldn't guess, my fun fact is I was on MasterChef in just after graduation because I'm a huge foodie and applied for this TV show and got on. So yeah, there's an episode of me live on TV cooking for UK MasterChef. So that's probably a bit of something they wouldn't necessarily expect.
Okay, where do we find that? Is that on YouTube? Can we find that on YouTube?
On YouTube. You can indeed.
Okay. Do you have a YouTube channel where we can?
I don't have a personal channel, but it's on BBC iPlayer on YouTube. So yeah, you can find it on there.
That's awesome. Okay, I did not. Okay, so that makes sense. The food and drink thing, that's where it comes from.
It's my life goal. Hopefully, if I can sell Gathr, and my life goal is to then basically start, not cook, but start a Michelin star restaurant and work with some chefs who have amazing talent but haven't had the support or the money to do it, and fund them to try and create one of the world's best restaurants using incredibly talented underrepresented.
That's a cool hidden skill. Okay. Mark, it's been awesome having you on, man. I'm going to be out in London for London Tech Week in June. We're going to be working with Mark and Gathr to put on at least one event. So as soon as we get all the details firmed up, we'll share that. But really appreciate you coming on, man, joining us. This has been great to hear your story. Congrats on Gathr and what you're building, and love to check in sometime down the road. And I look forward to meeting you in person.
Absolutely. In June. Yeah, no, thank you very much for your time. It's been really amazing and really great to chat to you guys. Yeah, look forward to building the Gathr online partnership even further.
Likewise, man. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.